This isn't just a story. It's a journey, one that'll stay with you long after the video ends. So if you've ever felt love, loss, betrayal, or hope, then stay with us. Because this story deserves to be heard from the very first second to the very last. If this video moves you, even for a moment, please give it a like. Leave a comment telling us which part hit you the hardest, and share it with someone who needs to feel something real today. And if you love stories that are raw, emotional, and unforgettable, then subscribe to the channel. Because we don't just tell stories here, we bring them to life. The soft hum of chatter and clinking glasses filled the air as the Manhattan skyline glittered outside the grand ballroom of the Monarch Hotel. Among the crowd of polished elites, Maya Lawson, a rising star in interior design, sipped her champagne quietly. Her eyes wandered over the room, analyzing the elegant layout with the keen eye of someone who lived to transform spaces into something magical. For Maya, events like this were more about inspiration than indulgence. She thrived on creativity and discipline, her designs already adorning some of the most exclusive properties in the city. Tonight, though, felt different, like the universe had more in store for her than just networking. Across the room, Liam Hunter, a renowned tech engineer and CEO of a cutting-edge AI company, stood at the bar. With his sharp suit and commanding presence, he appeared every bit the master of his domain. Yet his gaze wasn't on the champagne or the skyline. It had landed on Maya. Unaware of the attention, Maya tucked a strand of dark hair behind her ear, her mind focused on the challenges of her latest project. But when their eyes met, briefly but powerfully, it was as if the bustling room faded, leaving only a charged silence that neither could ignore. Neither of them could know that this seemingly fleeting encounter would alter the course of their lives forever. The crystal chandeliers sparkled above, casting a warm glow over the elegant ballroom as Maya made her way to the bar. She wasn't here to make small talk or network. The event was just another professional obligation in her busy life. Still, the champagne in her hand was a welcome escape after a long week. Is it just me, or does this place try a little too hard to impress? A deep voice quipped beside her. Startled, Maya turned to find a man with sharp features and an easy confidence. He was dressed in a perfectly tailored suit, his presence somehow blending into the opulence while commanding attention. "It's all about the lighting," she replied, unable to resist engaging. Soft shadows and just enough sparkle to hide the imperfections. "That sounds like the voice of experience," he said, smiling, his dark eyes glinting with intrigue. "Let me guess, you're in design?" "Interior design," she admitted, taking a sip of her drink. "And you tech?" He raised his glass. "Liam, Maya." They didn't exchange more details, yet the conversation flowed easily, full of playful banter and light-hearted observations about the evening's guests. As the minutes slipped by, Maya found herself laughing more freely than she had in ages. Liam's wit and charm made her forget the rigid plans and goals that usually consumed her thoughts. "You have a way of making this place feel less," Maya gestured vaguely, "pretentious, and you've made it feel far more interesting," Liam countered, the corners of his mouth lifting into a crooked smile. They shared another drink, and then another. The air between them grew warmer, charged with an undeniable pull. Maya couldn't recall the last time she'd felt so at ease with a stranger, or so drawn to one. When Liam leaned in slightly, his voice low and teasing, "How much longer are you going to pretend you're not as curious as I am about where this night could go?" His words sent a shiver down Maya's spine, the kind that whispered of possibilities too tempting to ignore. She didn't answer with words. Instead, Her hand brushed his, a fleeting but intentional gesture that set the course for the rest of the evening. By the time they left the ballroom together, the city's lights stretched endlessly before them, a backdrop to a decision that would forever alter their lives. Beside her, his features were softened by the early morning light. Liam's arm rested casually across the bed, his presence oddly reassuring. For a brief moment, Maya allowed herself to savor the unexpected intimacy of the night. But reality crept in. This wasn't her. She wasn't the kind of woman who spent the night with a stranger, no matter how charming or disarming he might be. Quietly slipping out of bed, Maya gathered her dress and shoes, dressing quickly in the luxurious bathroom. By the time she reached the penthouse door, she hadn't left a note. There didn't seem to be anything to say. In the days that followed, Maya tried to bury herself in work, designing spaces that mirrored the control she so desperately sought to regain. But something had shifted. Her usual focus felt fractured, her thoughts drifting back to Liam's smile or the way he had looked at her, as though she was the most captivating person in the room. A few weeks later, everything changed. Maya had been feeling uncharacteristically tired and nauseous, blaming it on late nights and looming deadlines. But when the symptoms persisted, she reluctantly bought a pregnancy test. She stared at the positive result in disbelief, her hands trembling. Pregnant. The word felt surreal, almost too big to comprehend. A mixture of fear, excitement, and uncertainty washed over her. She placed a hand on her stomach, her mind spinning with questions. What did this mean for her carefully constructed life? Could she do this alone? Her first thought was Liam, but then the doubts rushed in. How would he react? Would he even want to know? They had shared one extraordinary night, but they hadn't exchanged numbers or even last names. He was a stranger, charming, unforgettable, but still a stranger. And there was no way to contact him. Maya turned to her best friend, Claire, for advice. "This is insane," Maya said, her voice shaky as she relayed the news. "I don't even know how to start handling this." Claire reached for her hand, her tone firm but supportive. "You don't have to figure it all out right now. Focus on what matters, you and the baby. Everything else will fall into place." Maya nodded, unsure of how or when, but knowing her life was about to change forever. For 2 months, Liam Hunter had replayed the same memory in his mind. Maya's laughter, the way her eyes lit up when they talked, and the magnetic pull that had drawn them together. He had woken up the morning after their night together to find her gone, leaving behind nothing. No number, no name, just the lingering scent of her perfume and a memory that refused to fade. A man known for solving the unsolvable, Liam now found himself helpless. Without even knowing her last name, all his efforts to track her down led nowhere. For someone used to having control, the situation left him frustrated and strangely hollow. Now, standing in the middle of the Innovate NYC Technology Conference, Liam felt like the universe had finally answered his unspoken question. Maya Lawson, her name was boldly displayed on a plaque as the lead designer of the exhibit he'd been invited to see. She was here. Liam's heart pounded as he scanned the room, his eyes locking on her figure adjusting a display. She hadn't seen him yet. He took a moment to take her in, the same grace, the same understated elegance. But something had changed. "Maya," he called softly, his voice cutting through the hum of the conference. Maya froze at the sound. Her pulse quickened as she turned. Her eyes widened in shock. "Liam," she breathed, her voice barely above a whisper. He stepped closer, his expression a mix of relief and disbelief. "I've been looking for you," he said, his voice tinged with frustration. I didn't even know where to start, but I couldn't stop thinking about you. Maya's heart sank. She had hoped for time, a way to prepare for this moment. I didn't think we'd see each other again, she admitted, her voice trembling. Liam searched her face, sensing something beneath the surface. Is something wrong? Maya hesitated, then drew in a breath. There's no easy way to say this. I'm pregnant. I'm pregnant. The words hung in the air between them, heavy with meaning. Liam blinked, his expression unreadable as he processed what she had just said. Pregnant, he repeated, his voice low. Maya nodded, her hands instinctively moving to her stomach. 2 months. Liam let out a shaky breath, his gaze flickering between her face and the tiny hint of a baby bump beneath her blouse. His chest tightened with a swirl of emotions, shock, disbelief, and above all, an overwhelming sense of responsibility. And it's... Yes, Maya said quickly, meeting his eyes. They're yours. Liam's shoulders dropped as the tension in his body melted into something deeper, resolve. Maya, you should have told me, he said, his tone firm but not accusatory. I didn't know how to find you, she said defensively, her voice wavering. And I wasn't sure if you'd even want to know. Of course I'd want to know, Liam said, stepping closer. This changes everything. But I'm not going anywhere. I want to be part of this, of their lives, of your life, if you'll let me. Maya felt her walls begin to crack as his words washed over her. I don't know what I need right now, she admitted, her voice shaky. Then let's figure it out together, Liam said, his tone unwavering. Step by step. For the first time in months, Maya felt a spark of hope. Liam wasn't just showing up. He was staying. The weeks following their unexpected reunion were a whirlwind of adjustments for both Maya and Liam. The guarded walls Maya had built around herself began to crack as Liam eased his way into her life with quiet determination. True to his word, he didn't push her. He remained a steady presence, showing up for every prenatal appointment, carving out time despite his packed schedule. Maya, however, struggled to find her footing. Balancing the demands of her career with the realities of pregnancy left her feeling stretched thin. The twins had brought a new joy into her life, but also a wave of uncertainty she wasn't used to navigating. You need to slow down, Claire said one evening, watching Maya work late into the night on a design proposal. You're carrying 2 lives, Maya. Maybe it's time to let Liam help. Maya sighed, placing a protective hand over her stomach. I'm not used to relying on anyone. I've always done things on my own. And how's that working out for you now? Claire's voice softened. He's here, Maya. Let him be. Liam, for his part, seemed to sense Maya's reluctance to lean on him. Instead of overwhelming her, he found subtle ways to support her. He began organizing her prenatal vitamins into a labeled dispenser, stocked her fridge with healthy meals, and even quietly took over the logistics of converting her spare bedroom into a nursery. One evening, Liam arrived with a folded piece of paper and handed it to Maya. She unfolded it to find a carefully sketched layout of a nursery. You drew this? She asked, surprised. It's terrible. I know, Liam said with a sheepish grin. I'm not the artist here, but I figured you'd want to design it yourself, so I thought I'd give you a starting point. For the first time in weeks, Maya laughed. It's functional, she teased, but it's a start. As the months passed, the two began to settle into an unspoken partnership. Maya gradually opened up, sharing her fears about motherhood and her desire to maintain her independence. Liam listened without judgment. His presence remained unwavering. One night, after a particularly difficult day, Maya found herself resting her head on Liam's shoulder. I didn't expect this, she admitted softly. Neither did I, he said, wrapping an arm around her gently. But I think we're figuring it out step by step. They were learning to trust, not just each other, but the extraordinary path they were now walking together. It came sooner than either of them expected. At just over 32 weeks, Maya woke in the middle of the night to sharp pains rippling through her abdomen. Panic set in as she realized her water had broken. "Liam," she called out, her voice trembling. Within seconds, Liam was at her side, his calm but urgent demeanor keeping her grounded. "It's okay. I've got you," he said quickly, grabbing the hospital bag they had packed just in case. The ride to the hospital was a blur of flashing lights and racing thoughts. Maya clung to Liam's hand, her usual composure giving way to fear. "It's too early," she whispered, tears streaming down her cheeks. "They're not ready. They're fighters," Liam said firmly, his voice steady. "Just like their mom." At the hospital, the medical team moved swiftly. Maya was rushed into a delivery room where doctors confirmed she was in premature labor. Despite the fear crashing through her, Maya's instincts as a mother kicked in. She focused on her breathing, listening to every instruction the doctors gave while Liam stayed close, never letting go of her hand. Hours passed in a haze of pain, adrenaline, and fear. But finally, the room was filled with the tiny cries of two premature but strong baby girls. Maya sobbed as she saw them. Tiny, wrapped in soft hospital blankets, whisked away to the NICU for immediate care. "You did it," Liam whispered, brushing her hair back gently. "They're here." Maya nodded through her tears. "I just want them to be okay." "They will be," he said. "They already are." In the following days, Maya and Liam practically lived in the NICU. Maya would sit for hours, eyes locked on the tiny incubators that held their daughters, whispering soft words through the glass, willing them to grow stronger. Liam, once a powerhouse in business, now spent his days learning to hold tiny bottles, memorizing nurses' names, and reading medical articles about premature infants at 2 a.m. One morning, Maya woke to find Liam asleep in a hospital chair, his head leaned to the side, one hand still holding hers. He hadn't left her side once. The babies, Ava and Noel, grew stronger with each passing day. Every gram gained, every stable heartbeat was a small miracle. Maya and Liam celebrated quietly, never taking a single breath for granted. One evening, Maya looked over at Liam while he gently placed his palm against the incubator window. "You know," she said softly, "I used to believe I had to do everything alone. That asking for help made me weak." Liam turned to her, his eyes warm and steady. "I used to think the same thing." "And now?" she asked. "Now, I know strength doesn't mean doing it all yourself. It means showing up no matter how hard it gets." Maya felt something loosen in her chest, a wall, long erected, finally starting to fall. Weeks later, the doctors delivered the news they had been hoping for. The twins were strong enough to go home. Maya cried as she dressed Ava and Noel for the first time, their tiny limbs squirming in pastel onesies. Liam stood nearby, fumbling with the car seats, his hands shaking more than he'd admit. As they walked out of the hospital together, the late afternoon sun bathed them in gold. Two parents, two newborns, and a new life waiting to begin. The apartment was quiet when they returned, too quiet. Maya gently set the girls into their cribs, then stood in the doorway for a long moment, overwhelmed by the stillness. Liam wrapped an arm around her. "You okay?" She nodded slowly. "It's just real now." He kissed her temple. "Yeah, it really is." Later that night, the babies finally asleep, Maya and Liam stood in the kitchen, drinking tea in silence. "I don't know what comes next," Maya said, Whatever it is, Liam replied, we'll figure it out. Together. A small, intimate gathering. Friends and family seated in rows, surrounded by blooming garden roses, fairy lights strung above as the sun dipped low behind the trees. Liam stood before Maya, his voice steady but full of emotion. I promise to honor the love we've found in the most unexpected way, to cherish the strength we've built through every challenge, and to celebrate the miracles that brought us here, he said, eyes locked with hers. To stand by you, to protect Ava and Noel, and to treasure the life we've created together. Maya smiled, her hands trembling slightly as she spoke her vows. I promise to be your partner in everything, in raising our daughters, chasing our dreams, and finding joy in even the quietest moments. I promise to laugh with you, cry with you, and build a life rooted in truth, in trust, and in love. Tears welled in her eyes, but her voice never wavered. When they were pronounced husband and wife, the garden erupted in cheers. But it was the soft, delighted giggles of Ava and Noel, nestled in the arms of their aunts, that truly sealed the moment. Later that evening, under the soft glow of hanging lanterns, Maya and Liam swayed to gentle music on the patio. This is the beginning of everything, Liam whispered, pulling her closer. Maya leaned into him, her eyes drifting toward the twins. And it's already perfect. The celebration wound down slowly. Friends clinked glasses. Laughter floated through the air, like music. But for Maya and Liam, the world had already narrowed to one thing. Their family. That night, after the last guest left, Maya stood barefoot in their kitchen, her wedding dress now exchanged for a soft cotton robe. Liam brought her a glass of water and pulled her close. Still with me, he teased gently. Forever, she said, resting her head against his chest. Their daughters were fast asleep down the hall, the house filled with a rare, peaceful stillness. They stood there for a long time, arms wrapped around each other, soaking in the stillness. Life wasn't a fairy tale. It had brought chaos, fear, surprises. But it had also brought healing, love, and two tiny miracles. In the months that followed, Maya returned to work part-time, slowly resuming her passion for design. But now, everything was different. She no longer poured her worth into deadlines or clients. Her real masterpiece was the life she was building with Liam and with their daughters. Liam, too, found balance he never thought possible. He learned to disconnect, to slow down, to spend mornings with cereal-stained pajamas and sticky fingers, and love every second of it. Their days were full of giggles, of learning how to swaddle and soothe, of adjusting and readjusting. Their nights were sometimes sleepless, but never joyless. And through it all, they loved each other more deeply, not with grand gestures, but in the way Maya would reach for his hand when one of the twins cried, in the way Liam would leave sticky notes in her sketchbook that read, "You're incredible," in the way they fought for one another, and always fought beside one another. On their 1-year anniversary, they didn't book a fancy dinner or take a lavish trip. Instead, they put the twins to bed early, ordered pizza, and sat on their rooftop with a blanket and a view of the city lights. I used to think love had to be perfect, Maya said, sipping from her soda can. Liam smiled. And now I know love is choosing someone again and again, even when it's messy, especially when it's messy. He leaned over and kissed her forehead. Then I guess we're doing it right. They sat under the stars, the hum of the city far below them, the world quiet for once. And in that silence, there was everything.